The story begins long before the name became globally known, in a world of quiet privilege, sealed records, and unanswered questions. According to public records, Jeffrey Epstein emerged from relative obscurity into circles of extraordinary wealth and influence with unusual speed. Financial filings, property records, and travel logs suggest a life that moved far beyond what was publicly explained. From the beginning, there are gaps in employment history, gaps in financial disclosures, gaps that, even decades later, remain unresolved. Reports suggest that Epstein's early career showed little indication of the immense fortune he would later command. He moved through elite environments with apparent ease, gaining access to powerful institutions and influential individuals. According to former associates and archived interviews, his role was often unclear. Titles shifted, responsibilities were vaguely described, yet access remained constant. Private aircraft, exclusive residences, and introductions to figures at the highest levels of finance and politics appeared in records long before scrutiny followed. Documents indicate that his wealth was not tied to a transparent business empire. Unlike traditional financiers, Epstein did not publicly manage a large fund, nor did he regularly appear in regulatory filings associated with major investment houses. According to financial analysts who later examined the available data, the source of his money remains one of the most persistent mysteries. Offshore accounts, complex trusts, and shell entities appear in records, but they do not fully explain the scale of his lifestyle. As the years passed, Epstein's name began appearing in flight logs, guest books, and property registries that spanned continents. Records show residences in New York, Florida, New Mexico, Paris, and a private island in the Caribbean. Each location was fortified with privacy protections. Surveillance systems, controlled access points, and strict confidentiality agreements were reportedly standard. According to court filings, staff were required to follow detailed protocols that limited what they could see, hear, or later describe. The first serious public attention came not through financial inquiry, but through criminal investigation. Police reports from the early 2000s describe allegations that would eventually trigger federal scrutiny. According to those reports, complaints were initially localized, handled quietly, and limited in scope. Documents indicate that early warnings did not immediately escalate to broader investigations, despite patterns that would later be described as systemic. According to court records, a series of agreements reached during this period significantly narrowed the legal exposure Epstein faced. These agreements, later scrutinized by journalists and legal experts, were highly unusual in their scope and secrecy. Sealed documents and non-prosecution clauses limited who could be charged and who could be questioned. Reports suggest that victims were not fully informed of the terms at the time. The silence that followed lasted years. During that period, Epstein continued to travel, host guests, and expand his network. According to flight records, movements between private residences and international destinations continued with little interruption. Invitations were extended, introductions were made, influence appeared intact. For many observers, the lack of visible consequence raised difficult questions about power and protection. Journalistic investigations later uncovered internal communications that suggested discomfort among some officials involved in earlier decisions. Emails and memos indicate concerns were raised but not pursued. According to legal scholars, the structure of the agreements created barriers that discouraged further action. Once sealed, they became difficult to challenge without significant political and institutional will. Years later, renewed scrutiny emerged as journalists began piecing together fragments that had remained scattered. According to investigative reports, this work relied on public records, leaked documents, and testimony that had not previously received attention. Patterns began to form, names recurred, locations overlapped, timelines aligned in ways that were difficult to ignore. The term Epstein files entered public language as a shorthand for this growing body of material, Court documents, unsealed records, depositions, and exhibits revealed glimpses into a hidden system. According to those documents, the story was not limited to one individual, but embedded within broader structures that valued discretion over transparency. As more records became public, attention shifted toward those who had interacted with Epstein socially or professionally. It is important to note that association alone does not indicate wrongdoing, and many names appear in documents without context. Still, according to analysts, the sheer concentration of influence raised concerns about how accountability functions when wealth and access converge. The private island became a symbol, not because of what was proven to occur there, but because of how little was documented. According to property records and witness statements, the location was designed for isolation. Limited local oversight, controlled transportation, and private security reduced external visibility. Questions surrounding activities there remain largely unanswered due to the scarcity of verifiable records. Attention also turned to Epstein's death in federal custody. Official reports concluded suicide, yet the circumstances quickly became a subject of intense scrutiny. According to Department of Justice findings, multiple failures occurred within the facility. Cameras malfunctioned, guard checks were inconsistent, records were incomplete. While no evidence of foul play was officially confirmed, the convergence of failures fueled public distrust. Independent experts reviewing the available information noted procedural lapses that would typically trigger serious consequences. According to those experts, such lapses undermined confidence in the system's ability to safeguard high-profile detainees. For many observers, the timing of Epstein's death marked the end of potential testimony that could have clarified lingering questions. Following his death, legal proceedings did not end. Civil cases continued. According to court filings, victims sought accountability through alternative channels. These cases revealed additional documents, including correspondence, calendars, and financial transactions. Each disclosure added detail, but also complexity. Rather than resolving the story, the files expanded it. Financial institutions associated with Epstein later faced scrutiny regarding their oversight practices. Regulatory reviews examined whether warning signs had been ignored. According to settlement documents, some institutions acknowledged failures in monitoring. These developments shifted the narrative from individual misconduct to systemic breakdown. Throughout this period, the theme of silence persisted. Non-disclosure agreements, sealed settlements, and confidential arbitration limited what entered the public record. According to transparency advocates, these mechanisms, while legal, can obscure patterns that only emerge when information is shared. The Epstein files, as they exist today, are incomplete by definition. Many documents remain sealed, others were never created, destroyed, or withheld. According to archivists and legal analysts, the historical record is fragmented. What survives offers glimpses rather than conclusions. As years pass, the story continues to influence conversations about power, accountability, and secrecy. According to sociologists, cases like this expose structural vulnerabilities where wealth intersects with weak oversight. They challenge assumptions about equal application of the law. For victims, the files represent more than evidence. They are records of delayed recognition and partial justice. According to statements submitted to courts, many describe a sense that truth emerged slowly, filtered through institutions not designed to prioritize their voices. The unanswered questions remain. How did Epstein accumulate such wealth with so little transparency? Why were early warnings contained rather than escalated? What information was lost with his death? And how many connections will never be fully examined due to legal and institutional barriers? According to historians, the significance of the Epstein files may not lie in definitive answers, but in what they reveal about systems of influence. They document how secrecy operates, how accountability can be deferred, and how silence can persist across decades. As new documents surface and old ones are re-examined, the narrative continues to evolve. Each release is met with renewed attention, followed by familiar constraints. According to records, the balance between disclosure and protection remains contested. The story does not resolve cleanly. It lingers in court dockets, archived emails, and unanswered subpoenas. It exists in the space between what is known and what may never be confirmed. According to those who continue to investigate, the files are not an ending, but a record of how much remains hidden. And in that space of uncertainty, the Epstein files stand as a reminder that some stories are defined not by what they reveal, but by what they withhold,